Today I will be talking about what players would help NFL teams improve their point differential. This is in regards to the National Football League, the professional football teams in America, United States, and I am Miles Buchanan. And okay, so just a couple of things for the background for this. The way the football works is there are 22 players total on the starting players, I should say. 11 of the players will be on offense, and 11 will be on defense. Um, Players are added through free agency or the NFL draft. So there are 53 players total on a team. They can rotate those out, but typically they have 22 starters. And the purpose of those players are either if they're on offense, they're supposed to score points for the team, or if they're defense, they're supposed to defend and prevent the other team from scoring points. Now, teams will have many issues. This happens many times on teams where teams will allow too many points. So their defense is having an unproductive defense, and what they basically are doing is they're not doing well, whether they're letting teams throw against them too much or they're letting them run against them too much. These will be drafted accordingly, and so that's how they're going to do. That's how they'll assess their defense. On Also on their offense, the team could possibly not be scoring enough, so they're having an unproductive offense. They're just not able to match with the talent of the team that they're facing, and so unfortunately sometimes they have to improve their offense. Ways you can look at these things is point differential. Of course, you want to have positive where that you are having more points than you are allowing, and you can add players to help this, as well as the yard differential, which is where that you're gaining more yards than you are allowing. So both of these would help improve your team. Yards would actually help more than points because points can be scored in different ways, but as long as you're gaining more yards, you typically are scoring more. So that's just kind of a rule of thumb there. This data collection that I have used has been using the websites to collect scoring data, CVS Sports, as well as Pro Football Reference. Both are very credible, reputable sites. There I was able to gather the information, and these teams would actually be able to gather the information about their wins and losses and ties if they do occur. It's very rare, but they do occur. The number of yards that they have gained, as well as they allowed, and the number of points they scored, as well as how many points they allowed. Also, I was able to find the information of the total players added for each side of the ball. I was able to see who they acquired through the draft for the various years, and then also I was able to see the information about who they acquired in free agency or who they re-signed, whether they were on offense or defense, and such like that as well. So using Excel, I was able to gather this information from the various websites, and that was able to help me kind of narrow the information, locate what I was need, and kind of sort through, fine tune, and just kind of separate by the year. Like for instance, I've got 3 years worth of information that I was using. So we started with 2018 all the way up until now, and we were able to find information about who the teams were drafting, of course, the differential, who they were able to acquire, how they improved from year to year. All this information is on the database on Access, which leads me to my next slide, where I was able to sort through the information through Access. I was able to run the reports so that I could compare the information to see which teams acquired and see if they actually did this accordingly and improved. The way that we find the information is the teams that actually address their issues, like if their defense was too bad, or like if they had a horrible compared to the average of the league. If they didn't address that, they didn't do as well or something like that. And then in some of those cases, we also seen that the coaches and the leaders and the managers and such of the teams were actually fired because they didn't address that information correctly. So if they would use this information, it would actually help them keep their jobs and have a more successful team. But I was also able to help locate the team needs, which I went ahead and kind of on last slide we'll get to a little ahead of myself, but we'll be able to see some of the information about what teams could get in this offseason that we're currently in. But we can also locate the change, the year by year, season by season, stuff like that. And access really helps us narrow down the information so that we can find what we need. The proposed implementation. Teams will just need to collect this data that's actually readily available to them to help them evaluate this. They could do a SWOT analysis where they can find their strengths, their weaknesses, opportunities, and strength threats. Like if they see that if there's still offenses there and they're just not scoring as much, but they see that that's could be bad. That's a threat, of course. And they can evaluate the players they've acquired and see how well that works for them. Also, they can change where it's necessary if they need to add more on their defense or such like that, or if a player gets older, then of course they want to definitely look at information like that. So my proposed solution is the teams need to look at their point differential a little bit more as well as their yards differential. I think yards differential is the most important. That way that you may score a lot of points and not many yards, but as long as you're gaining a lot of yards, you typically score more points. They can look at their wins-loss ratio, which does matter, of course, in the long run, but I think yards matters more. But acquired players, they can look at that information. They can acquire the players based off of the needs that they look through their yards differential as well as the points differential, and they can add players in the offseason by the draft or free agency. That's my proposed solution to that. And here, I just kind of went ahead and did this. The recommendations I mentioned for this year, we've got the improved offense for those teams, the Bears, 49ers, Eagles, Dolphins, and the improved defense for the Packers and Bengals, and teams that need to improve both are like the Panthers, Jets, Lions, and Jaguars. So all that information there. Here are my sources, and that is the information I have.